Welcome everybody to another edition of TEW 2020, as it's time for the show after WrestleWar as we begin the road to WCW Sacrifice 2004. Thank you, TNA, for that pay-per-view name, which I'm stealing, for the second year in a row. Regardless, before we start the show, I just want to, again, as I've been pushing during every video, this YouTube channel census just to see what people, on this channel are watching, what they're enjoying, not enjoying, what they want for future, any ideas, thoughts, concerns, etc. Again, it's a quick link in the description of the video, and you just follow the, what's the word I'm looking for here? Yeah, just, go ahead and, it's a quick, like, 4 or 5 questions. It should take you no more than a couple minutes unless you really want to think about it. And again, it's a very quick thing just to, as we're hopefully getting more attention here on this, series, for this fun game. Again, I do love this game. It's a series I will continue no matter what, but I do just want to see generally what people want, what they want more of, what they want less of, and what they're enjoying and not enjoying. So yeah, just go ahead, fill it out real quick, and, hopefully I'll see what people actually want. Again, but now it's time for Nitro, so I'll be back with that in just a moment. So we're starting Nitro off as we're still in the tri-state area, as we're with 16,000 people at the Prudential Center in Trenton, New Jersey. Ironically, because in real life, WWE is doing WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden, and we're doing this in the tri-state area. I swear, until like the week before WrestleWar, I forgot that what was actually happening, and I just didn't realize it. But hey, it's a fun little, we're still at war thing, so why not? Anyway, in our pre-show match, that had terrible wrestling nonsense Frog Heat. Again, really mean. Gail Kim and Lexi James get the big win over Jordan Cole and Emi Sakura in 10-19. When Gail Kim pins Emi Sakura with the defeat, this gets a 55. Emi gets a 47. Jordan Cole gets a 53. Lexi James gets a 50. And Gail Kim gets a 61. Perfectly solid pre-show match. Again, gets win some in ring time where I haven't been on TV in a few weeks. And yeah, I feel bad about both Gail Kim and Lexi James because they are really good. I had to try to build Nikita as sort of the top heel in the division and build that storyline. But anyway, as we move forward, we also have another pre-show match as Alex Wright, Blitzkrieg, and Sabu defeat Sean Stasiak and the Roman Legionnaires as Wingo Pompanius and Romeo Rivajonius. And Alex Wright pins Swinger with an Alex submits Swinger with an STF in 14:37. This gets a 60. Sabu gets a 47. Blitzkrieg gets a 48. Alex Wright gets a 73. Swinger gets a 41. Sean Stasiak gets a 57. And Romeo gets a 43. Of course, Alex Wright looks good out there because he's the best wrestler and most over by far. And yeah, perfectly solid match. Just again, getting these guys over, getting some in-ring time for people who haven't been on Nitro in a little bit. And yeah, some of these people I feel bad about, others less so. But anyway, moving on to the actual opening of the show. As after, the opening pyro and everything, out comes Eddy Guerrero, who, gets a huge pop from the crowd. He was saying, Holmes, I really thought it was done there for a second. I really thought, that monster Messias had me, despite how hard I fought. But, real family values say we lie, we cheat, we steal, and we take any win we can to keep the world title. So, Sean O'Hare, thanks a lot for, making sure when we started didn't screw me out of this title. And now I'm ready to team up with you tonight, later on in the main event, to take on Victor Morningstar and show Deadpool that this world title is staying around my waist. Then Booker T's music hits, doing a huge heel pop as he comes down and stands off with Eddie for a second, looking right at the belt as Charmel is on his arm, and he says, "Old business is over. It's time for new business. And Eddie, you are that new business. I'm coming for that title, sucker, and there's nothing you can do about it. So have fun with the freak tonight, but after that, it's my time to become a six-time world champion." Then Booker walks away. Announcers, react as he would. And this gets 100 because everybody is really good here. Again, if only Eddie could break that pop cap. If only he could break that pop cap. Anyway, we move forward. As the announcers then put off, it's going to be O'Hare and Eddie versus Vampiro and Morningstar tonight, which gets a 68. And then we have backstage, Shane Helms trying to get, basically knocking on Flair's door, basically yelling him, saying, the greatest U.S. champion of all time has some answers for you, why you got involved in my business last night. And, there's no answers, there's some we hear some noise and some shuffling, and eventually the door opens, but Ric Flair doesn't come out, but rather a attractive blonde woman in wearing only what obviously is one of Ric Flair's shirts. She sort of smiles, like, does a has a small grin on her face as she runs away, and then the door slams, and Shane Helms has no answer. He still doesn't know. I mean, we can guess why Ric Flair got involved, but Shane Helms is still not happy about this, as this gets a 74. And yes, we're sort of moving Helms over to a feud with Flair, as his feud with Colombo is kind of over. And then in our opening match of the night, in bout that Car Wrestling and Little Heat, Jamie Noble defeats Skipper and Yang in 4:35, when Noble submits Yang with a guillotine choke. This gets a 62. Skipper gets a 51, Jamie Noble gets a 78, Yang gets a 52. And again, I know there's somebody who, as one of their prizes, told me to push Skipper. Don't worry, Skipper will be getting a push. It's just, I, again, can't do it immediately and has to sort of make sense. But anyway, Skipper, doesn't take the fall here. Noble, just a simple three-way match. Noble's able to lock in the guillotine choke. It's a quick tap out. No interference from Ebony Sable even. Just a solid win for Noble. And then Noble with Ebony celebrates afterwards to a 70 as the crowd boos. Then we come back from commercial as Jonathan Toro comes out with Elizabeth. They put over, he's the greatest television champion in recent memory. He's defending against anyone at all times. And he's ready tonight to prove once again his greatness in the ring, to show that he is bringing up back the Roman Empire one match at a time. And then Air Paris says, well, I guess Air Raid's music hits. Out comes Air Paris, and he says he accepts Toro's open challenge. Toro's heard last of him because, he's big. Air Paris is small, and the match is on. This gets a 52. And then in a match for the TV title, in a decent match, Air Paris defeated Jonathan Toro in 7:51 by pinfall with a quick roll-up. So, back and forth match. Well, Toro mainly dominates. Air Paris gets the shots in. But, Toro goes for a quick, sort of like a bull hammer into the corner. Paris gets out of the way. Cradle. 1, 2, 3. Air Paris is your World TV champion. This gets a 63. Air Paris gets a 67. Jonathan Toro gets a 64. Great chemistry, which is good. And a big win for Air Paris. And again, as part of the explanation for this, basically, I thought up a storyline for Air Paris. Basically for the TV title to fill up the next couple weeks, and involved Air Paris winning the title, and other stuff that you guys will obviously see in a couple weeks. And honestly, it's time for Toro to do other stuff. Like, he's been a good guy on Saturday night, as you see if you pay attention after the Nitro shows, or if you pay attention here. But he's had a couple month reign, I think, as TV champion, and now it's time for him to get involved in other storylines. That won't happen immediately, but eventually it will. 63 solid match, and of course Paris celebrates sort of over the top with the title to a 57. And then backstage we have Cartier and Angel, arguing. Well, not it's not hair pulling or anything. Basically, Cartier points out, she's the former world champion, so she could get the next title shot. Angel focus, she's not the one, she got, Cartier, she's been a former world champion of all, and, unfortunately, it's unfortunate what happened, at WrestleWar, but, she thinks she deserves another shot to get that first title shot at Cult. And Bischoff comes in and says, okay, I'm off to do something else right now, but here's the deal. You girls lost last night. It happens. But you're both great wrestlers, but there's lots of great women's wrestler on this roster and in other places. So, next week, live on Nitro, it's going to be an open challenge battle royal for any women's wrestler who wants to come to World Championship Wrestling Nitro, come to the Nitro, and get a shot at the women's title in one night. So that's set up for next week, an open battle royal. This gets a 70, and then we basically, the girls walk away, and Bischoff sort of points to the cameraman and says, "Follow me." He walks over to the Triumvirate dressing room, and it's basically, a party there. Awesome. Kid and Strowman are all happy. April Hunter's on Kidman's arm, and they're saying, there's a big Goldberg poster with the universal no symbol over him, and Bischoff's like, "You guys sure seem happy." And of course, we proved it's true. That men like you, Mix Pop, made sure that that guy, Goldberg, got opportunities above us, and we just took him out. Bischoff's like, well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I haven't seen Goldberg tonight, but, he's a busy man. He's got other things going on. However, you guys aren't busy tonight. So, tonight, you guys, the former tag champs, Storm Kidman, you get a big tag match tonight, and you big lug, he's pretty awesome, you're banned from ringside. So enjoy that. And Storm Kidman like, well, who are our opponents? And Bischoff's like, you'll find out when everybody else in the arena finds out. 70 again, as we sort of build up, the Triumvirate. And then Monty Brown squashes Fit Finley in 210 by pinfall to pounce. So this is a little bit longer because Fit Finley, just goes out there and brawls with them for a minute because he's Fit Finley and he's a badass. But Monty Brown's Monty Brown, and he just, eventually gains the advantage and kills Finley. Monty Brown gets a 59, Finley gets a 46, 55 overall. And post-match, Monty Brown, Stevie, and Miss Jones all celebrate to a 50, as the crowd pops, as they will. Then we have a quick backstage achievement as, Eric Harris and AJ Styles are actually celebrating backstage. Everything seems happy. And then Jamie Noble comes in with Ebony Sable, sort of interrupts them backstage and says, oh, isn't that happy? You guys lost your tag belts, but now you're both singles champions. Well, AJ, the legend is gone. Jushin's back in Japan in front of crowds there. But that title should be back around my waist. So, talk to Bischoff and tell him you're going to give the title, or I'll make you give that title. Paris, Styles and Paris both have backpacks. This is why you deserve it. And, Noble's like, I just defeated two of the top cruiserweights. And what are you, chicken? And Styles is like, no, I'm not chicken, but if you want to fight, I'll give you a fight. And look, you got your big, you got your big man beside you, but how about this? Next week, Air Raid returns as a tag team against you and your bodyguard. We'll prove that tag team experience, speed, and quickness can win out over your guile, Noble, and your size of it. Noble shrugs and says, fine. I'm fine to cause you damage even before I get my title back. So that's basically set up for next week. It'll be Air Raid returning as a tag team for the first time in a while versus Noble and Ebony in a big tag match as this gets a 72. Then we cut backstage where Jeremy Borash is with Keenan Sharpe. Borash, points out, Keenan Sharpe got DQ'd last week, and he, basically says something like, that sure seems like a divergence from the path. And Sharpe fires back, no, the way is still set up for anybody who wants to follow it. And what happened last night was that I almost fulfilled my way, but these restrictive rules that exist in your world got in the way. And as you see, I am here tonight, but Rey Mysterio Jr. is not even here. Or Sharpe, Washington says, well, yes, but that's because WCW officials said he wasn't here for action after the damage you caused last night. And here, yes, that's exactly true. But I don't care about Rey Mysterio Jr. for the moment. Whom I care about is Chavo Guerrero. Chavo got involved in my business. And perhaps next week I can show you the correct path you should follow. As he walks away, this gets a 65. Decent stuff. And then, in a big tag match, Hart Legacy take on Shane Helms and Gigantes. Of course, Hart Legacy are the new number one contenders to Bruno and Cash's newly won tag titles. So they both had good heat and decent reaction from the crowd. The Hart Legacy defeated Shane Helms and Gigantes in 9-10 when Ric Flair comes down the ringside, distracts Flair. Flair doesn't actually get involved, but that's enough time for Evans to basically hit a victory roll on Helms and get the 1, 2, 3 to a huge pop. This gets an 81, Gigantes gets a 62, Helms gets an 81, Jack Evans gets a 75, Teddy Hart gets a 71. Yes, we exist in a world where a match involving Shane Helms with 3 count, The Wall, Jack Evans, and Teddy Hart gets an 81 on Nitro. Fun time. See, this is how you build people. And of course, post-match, Cash and Amber O'Neal come down, and Helms Legacy freak out, and they're upset, and this gets a 67. Then we have a big promo as Jeff Jarrett comes down with his new charges, Mark Jindrak, and who Mike Tenagin points out is Ray Gordy, the son of Terry Gordy. And Jeff Jarrett begins and says, well. I bet you're all a little surprised. Well, Sotnuts, I knew I needed people who would truly back me up. Not like the horsemen supposedly back me up, but men who would truly back me up. So, first, I brought in the son of one of the toughest SOBs in the history of wrestling, who grew up in Tennessee just like I did, and who's been fighting and crawling and scratching his way up the wrestling ladder, and is now ready to make an impact beside me. Then, I knew there's people right here on this roster who weren't rising to their full potential because they weren't being given they didn't have the right people backing them up. So, I found a man who's part of this, but same background as a man who's in the main event tonight. I've always had great success so far. Has a great athletic background. This man, Mark Jindrak, he should be on the top of the card, just like other thrillers who he came in with. But he's gotten bad advice. He's been stuck with an anchor of a partner, but now he's here as the part of the chosen few who will revolutionize World Championship Wrestling, and there's nothing you can do about it. And tonight is just a preview of that. 87, really good. Obviously, this was just Jeff Jarrett, Ray Gordon, Mark Jindrak were there, looking all tough and cocky. And then they actually have a tag match, as in about the subpar wrestling, a little heat. That's unfortunate. Mark Jindrak and Ray Gordy defeat Justin Rhodes and Conan's 5-6-17 when Ray Gordy pins Conan. So, decent, little back and forth match, but job for the stars. Job. Ray Gordy gets a 52, Mark Jindrak gets a 62, Conan gets a 54, Dustin Rhodes gets a 68. Unfortunately, no great chemistry for these guys, but at least there's no bad chemistry. And then, as the court chosen few are celebrating, Keenan slips in, Canyon Cutter, kick wham, Canyon Cutter. Then he walks away as the crowd pops, as this gets a 72. And then we come back from commercial. Our friends Kim and Storm are already in the ring. And out come Eric Bischoff, who brings out RVD and Hardy to a big pop. As this gets a 74. And then the actual match. Okay. I wonder why didn't this do as good as I thought it would do? Let's see. Was there anything bad? Lack of heat from the storyline. Okay. Hardy. Okay. Inconsistency. Okay. So. Okay, nothing too terrible. Anyway, sorry. Had checked out once I saw the result. Anyway, about that Super Wrestling, Great Heat, RVD and Jeff Hardy defeat Billy Kidman and Lance Storm in 1546 when RVD pins Lance Storm with a 5-star Brock Splash. Hardy gets an 87, RVD gets a 91, Storm gets a 76, Billy Kidman gets an 88. So yeah, not the most, this is basically to build up RVD's heat a little bit after doing the clean job to Booker T and start a new storyline-ish with the Goldberg stuff. And also just, a little bit of face comeback against the Triumph, who have been a little successful. They just took out Goldberg last night. And of course, after the RVD and Hardy get the big win, despite, Kevin Storm being former tag champs and stablemates, out comes Mike Awesome for the 3-on-2 beatdown. It looks like they're going to take out 2 more members when Goldberg makes his return and chases them all off, to a huge pop and helps Hardy and RVD up. And there's a standoff as the crowd pops, as this gets an 88. Really good stuff. I think Goldberg's dead and gone. Well, Goldberg's Goldberg. You think you're going to stop him? Ha. That's hilarious. Okay, and then we have the next segment, which is interesting. So, Eddie and O'Hare come out. Lights go out. Deadpool come out. And just before the bell rings, Morningstar jumps off the apron. Vampiro is confused. O'Hare and Eddie are also confused. And there's a face-off as Morningstar just backs away, staring down Vampiro. O'Hare and Eddie are talking to the ref, what the hell's going on? And eventually, the ref sort of shrugs and eventually rings the bell. And Vampiro's ready to fight. And O'Hare and Eddie, finally nod each other. And I guess a handicap match is on, as this little woman second gets a 75. And the actual match, because, this probably killed my rating unless the end rating is really good, but sometimes you sacrifice for the sake of the angle. Anyway, in a superb match, which, still got a 66 somehow. I guess, because it was really short, that's it. Anyway, Sean O'Hare and Eddy Guerrero defeat Vampiro in 626 when Sean O'Hare pins Vampiro with the Widowmaker. So, what happens here is basically, Vampiro probably doesn't get, a face heat for this, because he's still been one of the most evil, SOBs in WCW over the last year, but like it's more confused. But crowd eventually popped him because O'Hara and AR get their just desserts on one of the guys who has caused him hell for the past 6 to 8 months. So in the end, Vampiro does fight back, but it's 2-on-1, and it's the world champion and one of the hottest wrestlers in the world. Eventually, Widowmaker. If I would have thought forward, I would have had Widowmaker frog splash for Eddy. But let's just say O'Hara hits Widowmaker, Eddy hits a frog splash, then O'Hara goes for the pin, 1, 2, 3, 66. O'Hara and Eddy just sort of leave because they're more confused than anything else. And then out comes Macias and Morningstar with Macias. Vampiro, stares him down and is sort of like, what's the message? And Morningstar says, this is the message. Chokeslam. Powerbomb. Just double team, powerbomb / some sort of cutter move from Morningstar. And then the casket is brought out. And it looks like what happened to Lestat, quote unquote, a few weeks ago is going to happen to Morningstar, Vampiro, but then the lights go out, and when the lights come back on, Vampiro is gone. And that's our sort of thing as the show ends, as this gets a 92. And the show overall gets a 82. Okay, so, like I said, the main event kind of killed things, but the fact we had 92 to close the show and 100 to open the show, and that random chosen few getting 87, still not the end of the world. So, this was a real angle saved everything type of show. But I'll be back in just a moment with the Raw results and sort of an overview of that as we go ahead into WrestleMania and everything else going on. Won't be a ton because all the stuff I usually show you guys I showed on WrestleWar, so I'll be back with everything else in just a moment. Okay, in a quick bit of hilarity, Goldberg thinks Conte doesn't connect with the fans. Okay. That I just find hilarious. Anyway, I'll check Raw in a second, but let's go over some quick storyline stuff. So, Booker. Okay, so I'll have to rename this, but this is the hottest I've seen a feud so far. It's 98, Booker versus Eddy for the world title. The new tag title feud's at an 80, Cruiserweight Fun's at a 76. Darkness Evolves is at a 94. Horseman feud is at an 83. Toro Air Paris is at a 61. Tag Wars, which is where just put the other tag teams, at a 74. Helmets Flair is at a 79. Triumvirate versus Goldberg is at an 80. Morningstar Vampiro is at an 89. And Keenan Ray is at an 81. And Women's Title Showdown is at a 54. So fun times. And yeah, let me just double check how long. Okay, yeah. So Toro had been champion for almost 6 months. And if we look at his defenses real quick, yeah, most of them were on Saturday night, but he actually eventually got better. He was getting, 50s. He got a win in 72 versus Conan, high 60s. So there you go. Not up. Again, this Toro push hasn't been the greatest thing in the world, but I think it's done pretty well because I've done it quasi-realistically. Regardless, and also just a quick check, World Tag Titles, and Cash, and Deadpool London's, after a month. And yeah, these have sort of been the titles I've bounced around the most, because if you notice, we go back to, that's the only title where there's been nearly a page of new champions. The World Heavyweight title obviously hasn't done that much. U.S. Heavyweight Champion is almost there, not quite there, and Cruiserweight Champion is also getting there, but still a little more for the tag champs. Anyway, as a quick check, Raw. So I'll go over Raw real quick, and then I'll go over the actual WrestleMania booking. So, to go over things, we had Michaels and Edge shooting Confrontation to set up their world title debate. They're basically their big feud, which got 100. We had the announcement that Kurt Angle is going to have the funeral of The Undertaker on SmackDown. We had a limo arrive being met by Vince and Steph. Remember, Triple H cheated on Stephanie McMahon with Lita, thus basically turning Steph face and making Triple H and Lita sort of a hot heel act. We had Trish Stratus defeating Ivory in a 79 eye candy match, then doing a quick promo about she's the best Steve in the WWF, and she's going to take back her title at WrestleMania because it's Trish versus Molly. We had Triple H, Lita, and Shane backstage because again, I think I've gone over this, but basically Triple H defeated Shane in a New Year's at the first Raw of the year, and then Shane then eventually was turned heel by the game. So I'm explaining that as Shane turning on his family, saying, Triple H deserves to be in charge. We had Al Snow going to a contest with Raven, which was a no DQ match, and then there's a brawl between Al Snow, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn versus what's left of this derby, which is Steve Austin's former stable when he was a heel, JBL, Raven, and Ron Simmons, which is really just Bradshaw and Farouk. And then we had DDP defeating Matt Hardy, and then Orton coming in, who's the young IC champion, hitting the RKO on him. Basically debuting that. Well, they would say it's the Diamond Cutter, but, he would call it the RKO. We had coaching with Paul Bearer saying there will be a surprise for Kurt Angle on SmackDown. We had Leviathan, Batista, killing Jerry Lynn in a couple minutes. And then a Leviathan Kane showdown, which got a 46. Yikes. In a 4-way match of the 4 of the people who were involved in tag teams in the 4-way tag title match, we had Billy Gunn defeating Rhino. Billy Gunn, who's teamed with Christian as part of Team Angle, defeating one half of the tag champions, Rhino, who's teams up with Tommy Dreamer as the Outcast. K-Quick, who's teams up with Grandmaster Sexy as Quick and Sexy, and Val Venus, who teams up with Rikishi. As I'm totally blanking on the team name. It's something goofy. Bum and Grind, there you go. Then we had an Austin Lesnar confrontation. Of course, the big world title match is Austin versus Lesnar. Lesnar has been dominant just in general, but especially dominant since winning the title at SummerSlam last year. And he's, his manager in this version of reality is Jim Cornette. And of course, it's sort of like the last chance for Austin. Then we had in the main event, Scott Hall defeats Chris Jericho, and then Benoit and Jericho beatdown as they've been teaming together before Rigo and Richards, who are Hall stablemates in game, to make the save. And then we had first Triple H and Shane coming down for a showdown with Vince, Steph, and the Big Show, who was announced first as Vince's partner. Then Vince had to step down from the match. And then it was made into a 6-man, where it'll be Triple H, Shane, and Lita versus Steph, the Big Show, and another partner. They sort of make fun of Dean McMahon, say nobody would want to team with you. You got your, you got your big monster who team with you, but, what's going to happen is one of you is going to be gone from the WWE. Is it going to be you, Stephanie? When Lita slaps you around, is it going to be you, Big Show? Maybe we'll send you back down to Atlanta. Or maybe, just maybe, it'll be you, Vince. Because maybe you'll have to step in. Triple H says, I'm the damn game. I run this shit. And then some familiar music hits. And yes, The Rock makes his return. And he does Rock stuff and basically, sets up that the big 6-man is Rock, Big Show, and Stephanie versus Triple H, Lita, and Shane. And here's the thing, I think this is realistic because in real life, Rock came back for that Evolution 3-on-2 match. So I think this makes, especially with in game, the Triple H cheating thing happened. And again, so that I think was actually a decent way to put it. And so if we change real quick. So I just want to do a quick of the pre-booking that has happened. And obviously I'll go over the other matches that are all set up. So again, Undertaker versus Kurt Angle is basically set up because they've been feuding in the game in real. So I think is actually a fun little WrestleMania match that never happened at Mania. And then we've got Brock Lesnar versus Steve Austin for the WWE Championship, and Lesnar's been a monster. Can the Texas Rattlesnake, aged, broken down, but still tough as nails, take him down? We got Edge versus Shawn Michaels, basically present versus the future. Can Edge defeat Mr. WrestleMania at WrestleMania? Kane versus Leviathan. New Monster versus Old Monster. The 6-person, which I just put over. And again, I think I didn't make this obvious, but the storyline, the gimmick is whoever gets pinned has to leave the WWE. So, and of course the, internet news sites with the Z sites will of course be putting over that that Triple H might be leaving, because he's of course out with the family. Or maybe The Rock will be one that leaves because he's off to Hollywood forever or whatever. Orton versus DDP for the IC title. Orton defeated Benoit, and now it's Orton versus DDP. Sort of as because again, in this version, Cena's still deep in developmental, so Orton's been sort of the new guy being pushed strong. Can he not screw it up? Then we got Molly Holly versus Trish Stratus for the Divas title. It's all set up. Molly Holly won the title. Trish Stratus wants to become champion. There you go. And then the other matches that aren't officially signed is Al Snow and the Radicals taking on Disturbia of Bradshaw, Farouk, and Raven, and the 4-way tag match, which you guys saw the build-up for. So again, I think that'll be interesting to do, and of course, as always, with I do this for WrestleMania and SummerSlam just because, I can deal with the weird booking of the AI for, the other shows, but for WrestleMania and SummerSlam, I want, an actual show to compete against. I think that's it for now. Yeah. Let me just go back to WCW real quick. I just want to make sure there's nothing else going on for you guys. Yeah, I think that's basically it. So, again, as I said at the start of the video, go and fill out that census. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like, comment below on what you're enjoying and not enjoying, and subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content like this, including this series, my WCW 1994 series, now heading towards Spring Stampede, finally, my MLW 2006 series, now in the Fusion era, and of course my WWE 2013 series, now heading towards Payback with the Cena Orton main event. But that's it for now, so talk to you later, and adios.